Okay, so at this point, we've wrapped up our simple game that we set out to create at the very beginning of this video series. But there's no reason to bring things to a close yet.
I already had my coat on. Are we not leaving?
I know. Nope, not yet. Figure we can push things a little bit further. We've basically did a quick, rapid prototype of a very simple 2D shooter. Let's push things a little bit. With very little effort, we can make this quite fancy. We can bring in some start, win, and lose screens that we can use, as opposed to just black nothingness with a button.
But it's such a glorious button.
That it is, but we can make things look a lot hotter if we bring in some textures, you know. And then from there, how about let's get rid of all of this black back here and put some stars in there.
Okay.
So there'll still be a lot of black, so no worries there, but you'll have some stars, and let's make those stars move. Okay, so if we get a scrolling background in place, that would be cool. And then from there, how about the geometry? Let's change out our geometry.
But I like the balls and the boxes.
I understand, and at this point, if you do, then you can simply stop, package it up, and there's your game.
Yeah, call it balls versus boxes.
I think it would be really nice if we were to bring in a new model that we could use for our player, and then bring in a new model that we can use for our enemy, and set up some code so that each time our enemy comes down the screen, not only is it coming in from a different location and at a different speed, but perhaps a different scale, so we'll get a sense of different enemies. Because we're going to use just a simple asteroid, so that makes a lot of sense to be able to do that. And let's have it tumbling as well. That would be cool.
Yeah, it would be really cool.
And then, of course, we can't wrap things up without putting in your advanced respawning system. I guess we could call it that. If you recall earlier, you had mentioned, but you know, the character or the player, when he comes back in right now, he just appears and you want to see him slide
into the view, and he's got to be invincible for the first few seconds.
So we got to blink to let the player know that he is invincible.
Exactly.
So you can get out of the way if there's something coming down. Besides, it's a good idea to revisit that anyways, because as you already know, we talked about this earlier for just a second, we still have the ability to move and shoot when we are invisible, because we're not locking that out in the player's update. So this will allow us to jump in there and do that. So there's a few things that we can do to make the game look much more polished than it is now. And we can do this with very little effort. So the first thing I want to do is bring in these textures that I was talking about for our starting, our winning, and our losing screens, and let's get them into place. So it'll only take a couple of minutes. So first things first, let's go ahead and create a new folder, and let's call this folder Textures. Then let's bring in some textures. So we'll start out with a lose screen. All I'm going to do is just drag it from a folder that's off screen on.
Yeah, so you guys can't see it.
So we've got that one. We've got a lose screen.
So you're building up anticipation before you show them what these look like, aren't you?
You got it. And a win screen. Now, it takes a second because we're actually importing these guys, and there's a few settings that we can change. So I guess we could start out with the start screen. Look at that, huh? So with the start screen, I want to just come up here and simply tell it not to generate any bitmaps, because we're obviously not going to need that, and I'll just hit apply afterwards.
Going to be at the same size.
So, yeah, exactly. So let's come over here to lose, the same thing, hit apply. Later in time, we'll begin talking about all of the different properties that we have available to us when we import textures. And let's come down here to win, and again, same thing.
Just every screen has an explosion.
So, yeah, isn't that great?
It is great.
And it's a nice explosion, Zach. A lot nicer than the one we have at the moment. But those were fast explosions.
Yeah, that's fluids, man.
So we have these in place as far as our project is concerned, but we're not using these assets in the game itself. And to do that, we need to revisit our screens that we set up earlier. If you remember, we have our different scenes, main, we have lose, we have win. We need to revisit the scripts that are driving these. So starting out, I'm going to come over here to our main menu, and let's jump in here. And there's been a change, so we'll just tell it to reload. Let's go ahead and come down to the on GUI section. At the moment, we are drawing out our instructions text, and we are drawing out our button, and if we click on the button, it's going to load our next level, which is the actual game level. I don't want that button there anymore. Instead, I want a texture to be drawn. And now we can take advantage of GUI.drawTexture in order to draw a texture to our screen. but I'm going to hold a reference to that texture. That way I can go ahead and drag it on in, and that'll make it quite easy for us to draw it. So I'm going to come up here in our fields area, and I'm going to do a public, and we'll just do a public texture, and we'll call this background texture.
Now this will be available in the inspector, right?
You got it, since it's public.
So that would be really easy then if you decided you wanted another texture later to just swap them out right here in Unity.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
So if I jump up here, and again, this is on our main screen, so let's make sure that we have our main menu loaded up. And if you recall, we had attached that main menu script to the main camera. So we simply select the main camera now that we are in the correct scene. And background texture is now available. And as you can see, we have no texture that we are referencing. So I'm going to simply come down and grab the start screen right here, or texture, drag and drop it in. So space shooter underscore start. And then we can now jump back over to the code and make reference to them. So what I'm going to do, and see the order of these things that are being displayed on the screen, as far as these different GUI functions we're calling on, it all takes place in the order in which you draw everything. So I want to draw my background first, so I'm just going to come in here with a GUI dot, and then it's just draw texture. And GUI.draw texture is going to be looking for some information, starting out with our rect. So I'm going to say new rect. But instead of coming in and typing in specific numbers, how about we start off at 0, 0, and we tell it, as far as the width and the height goes, let's just reference our screen. So I can say screen.width and screen.height. Like
so
such.
Technically this would be ready for multiple resolutions?
Yes, that's correct. Though keep in mind, up until this point, everything's been pretty much hard-coded.
Right,
because again, simple games.
But this one line is ready.
But this one line is now ready to rock and roll. So with that, let's go ahead. Also, if you remember, the button also took advantage of our screen width and button width and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go ahead and do a comma. And now you can see right there in this overload for draw texture, we're looking for a texture to draw. And I have reference to one already, the background texture field that we have set up a second ago. So let's go ahead and do background texture, close this off, just like such. And with that, I can save, come back over to Unity, hit play. Dun-dun-dun.
Nice.
Dun, dun, dun.
But now there's a button in the middle of it.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that's not good. We need to get rid of the button. So I'm going to jump back, come back over into my code, take the button, and get rid of it. But you know what? There's one line of code I don't want to get rid of. So let's cut that out, delete this, and then I'm going to paste this guy back in. But let's go ahead and comment him, because we now have a problem. When we come back in and we hit play, fantastic. Well, looks good.
But you have no way to start the game.
We've got instructions, and it says to start, basically we need to hit any key. Fail.
And nothing happens.
And nothing happens.
Yeah.
So we need to set it up so that when we hit a key, we're in good shape. And so let's go ahead and jump back over into Visual Studio. And to set that up, what we're going to do is we're going to simply take advantage of the input once again, and there is something built in that we can use. And all we need to do here is simply say if, and then I can put in input dot any key down. So the difference between any key and any key down is any key, once again, is constantly fired if a key is down, and any key down is a trigger one time when a key is pressed down. So we'll simply say any key down.
But where's the any key?
Any key. Any key on the keyboard. So I know exactly what you're getting at. So there you go. So let's go ahead and save, jump back over, play. So press any key, hit my space bar, and everything goes.
We're back to balls versus boxes. Hey,
Yeah,
look
that's
at that. 3 in a row, 4 in a row.
You like that, eh?
I'm impressed. You've been practicing.
Yep. So that's all we needed to do to get, that texture being drawn at the start of our game. And that obviously makes things look quite a bit nicer than what we had previously. So let's go ahead and use this same field. I'm going to copy this and put him on both my win and my lose screens, and then we'll link up textures on those objects as well. So we'll come over here to win, and again, I'm just going to jump into fields, and let's just paste this guy, hit save. Let's jump over to lose and scroll on up, and same thing. And we'll hit save. We'll come back over here, into Unity and open up our, we'll just start with lose. Go ahead and tell it to save out the main menu. And then I can simply select the main camera because that is where our lose script is attached, as you can see here. Again, we now see in the inspector the background texture, no texture assigned. Over in my project panel, I can simply scroll down up under textures, find lose, drag, drop, done. Let's go ahead and hit save. And I guess we could lose real quick to take a look at the problem. Jump in, game over. So come in here and die, and die. And we're not getting anything at the moment because we're not drawing the texture and we have a button there.
Right.
So let's jump back over into here.
Well, all we've done so far is we've just specified a field.
That's right.
We're not using it yet.
We're not using it. So before, the only thing that we had going on was this button. And if the button was pressed, everything inside of it was needed. Mm-hmm. But we don't want that button anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out and then do the same thing that we did over here in our main menu, draw our texture. So let's go ahead and grab this guy, jump back over into lose, and paste them in. And there we go. Now, I also want to make sure I do the if input dot, and again, any key down, and we'll block all this stuff in. We need
reset everything.
Yeah, we need to make sure that we reset our score, our lives, and missed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll run into the same problem that we saw earlier. So go ahead and save that. This should put things in good shape when we lose. Let's go ahead and hit play. So, of course, we're going to see lose every time because right now what screen or level is actually loaded, or the scene, excuse me, and we have scene lose, actually the active one. So let's hit a key. So that worked. So death 1. That missed.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. I should have made the explosion pink for the lose screen.
Death 3. And there we go. So after the explosion completed, you lose, dare to try again, press the key to continue. All right. So that's looking good. Next thing, let's jump over and wrap up our win screen. So we'll just double click to open it up. Select our main camera. We've already set up the field inside our script. So let's associate our texture. So I'm going to grab the space shooter underscore win. Drag and drop. So with that in place, let's jump over into Visual Studio and make sure our code is set up. Here's how easy it is.
So you can just reuse all that code.
You reuse all of this. So copy, jump over into Win, and then inside of Win, highlight everything, just paste right over it. Very good. Now we can do some additional cleanup in here as well, such as the fields allowing us to store numbers for a button width and a button height, no longer needed. So let's go ahead and remove those guys. Let's jump over here to lose. Same exact thing. So I'm going to come up a little bit higher, clean this all out, save it. Jump over here to our main menu, and once again do the same thing. We'll leave the instructions there, though. They don't get in the way.
Sure.
So we'll get that saved. Come back into Unity. Now, let's go ahead and load up our main menu. Make sure that our scene gets saved. So with our main menu loaded, let's go ahead and hit play. All right, looks nice. Let's hit a key, and then we start playing. Woo! And 300, 4, 5, 8, and 9, and you win.
Nice.
So all we need to do, press key, and we're playing again. So very nice. That's all we were doing in this video, just setting up some simple screens. So in just a matter of a few minutes, we've made things look a lot more professional.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions?
No, I like that we don't have to click a button anymore.
Okay, yeah, that's very nice. You can still use your mouse and click, and it'll still work as well.
Groovy.
So with that, that is going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot.